All right, Scott, can you see that? Are you okay? Can you see it?
Yeah, I can, but FSD can't.
Hey, y'all, it's Dr. Know-It-All coming to you from the West Coast, and you, Dr. Scott Walter, are on the East Coast, so we're like bifurcating the country here or something. We want to talk today about a really serious problem with Tesla's full self-driving. Like, no joke, actually. You know, I know we make jokes and everything, but this is something that I've experienced for several years, actually, driving to Washington, D.C. You've experienced it personally, and then Richard was kind enough to send us a couple of videos that we are going to go over where he shows the same problem. So probably, first of all, welcome, Scott. It's nice to see you again.
Yeah. Hey, John. And yeah, I want to just a shout out to Richard for sort of like bringing this to our attention. So I was a Tesla Owners Club event July 3rd at the Tesla Service Center in Sarasota. They just opened it up, and we were able to go up to the top where they have actually the parking on the top and watch the fireworks in there and do a light show and everything. And there, you know, I met a lot of the other owners. And I've met Richard a few times, and he says, you know, he's just had like one concern. He just loves FSD. He's done all sorts of great things, but just like this one concern that has been a problem from the beginning, that he just wants, you know, Tesla to get attention. He's tried, and that is these gates. It seems to have scotoma when it comes to that. It's like right in his blind spot. He cannot see a single pole gate, like a double pole gate. If things are hanging down, if it's, you know, but those single poles are still quite common in gated communities, and he knows enough of what to do.
On highways too.
And on highway, toll booths. Yeah, I guess that's in your case. It's like toll booths that are a problem. No, I don't live in a gated
it's actually
community.
easy pass lanes. Yeah, but anyway, it's scary. It's
really
scary.
So I don't have to experience day to day. I mean, the only time I might see it is every now and then I have to go over a drawbridge, but that's so rare.
Right.
You know, well, actually, it's not that rare. It's just it's rare for me to be right in the front to test it out. But even then, I think when they come down, they also have like this other stuff that kind
of lights and all sorts of things. Yeah,
the lights. There's
So we're going to go over that, and I actually have a theory, which is just a theory. I really don't know this for any kind of factual stuff, but it's kind of my guess as to what this is. First of all, we should definitely say that both of us are going to be at X Takeover July 27th and 28th in San Luis Obispo, which is one of the reasons why I'm out here. So Scott will be on the panel.
Okay. Okay. So it's basically the last weekend. I'm never quite sure which is like the Saturday and Sunday. Some things are kind of starting on Friday. So go to xtakeover.com to look at the schedule of events to figure out how that fits in.
In the description down there.
So San Luis Obispo at the Madonna Inn.
Exactly. And it'll be you and me and Ryan Tanaka and Omar Holmar's catalog and meet Kevin. So that's going to be
this will be interesting.
Hell of a panel. It's going to be an interesting panel.
I feel sorry for Ryan because he tends to be like the more quiet spoken guy.
I'm going to have to carve out a space so that he can talk.
Exactly. So I'm glad you're moderating so that you're well aware of that. Yeah.
So
and I'll try to do my best to keep my mouth shut.
There we go. Let us go to this. So this is, I believe I can actually control it through StreamYard here, so hopefully. But anyway, so here is Richard. Thank you, Richard, for sending us these. I never can capture them on the highway because I'm driving and obviously don't want to crash. So so this is him at a single pole gate. So this is just, you know, it's vertical, so you can't see the whole thing, but it's just basically a swing arm. This would happen at a railroad crossing oftentimes. They have those big single pole arms that come down sideways. This is a gated community, and we'll see two different examples of this. So, you know, he's driving. I've cut the sound off because I was talking over it. But he engages full self-driving and then has to immediately disengage. There it's engaged, and then, disengage right away.
Yes.
So that's number one. And then number two is, let's go forward here. He is driving at 25 miles an hour, the speed limit, coming to the exit of his gated community. And you'll see that it will pop up as well in just a second. And so this is two good instances. One is like you're right in front of it and you engage it. It's like, okay, it's right there, buddy. You have to be able to see that thing. And then the other one is you're driving the normal speed limit and you're coming up on it, and you'll see it's the blue little steering wheel is there, and then he has to disengage. And then of course the swing arm opens up because he's exiting the community, but that's not the important
time. And he says that so it gets that correctly. Now this is a refresh Model S, so it's not like an older one. So it's got recent hardware on there.
2022.
It's 12.3.6. He's had this in like every single release, and it's the type of thing that if he doesn't disengage, the gate may start to open in time, but it could clip the vehicle just close to it. It just gets too close. So he has to stop every single time. It never seems to notice it.
Right. Okay, and so that's his experience. My experience, I have two.
Mhm.
One of them is driving up to Washington D.C. On 95 going up. There's the Easy
Mhm.
Pass like lanes, which is a whole separate like highway. There's several lanes, and it goes one direction only at a given time of day. So if I'm driving opposite that, they have these gates that come down that tell you not to go in there because the traffic's going 70 miles an hour the wrong way. And there's a bunch of them. It's not just
Oh
one. There's
yeah,
like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
multiple,
That's right.
multiple of these things. Yeah. Car never, I mean, literally from the, I've driven to my parents' house so many times and it never will see them. And I have not, 12.3.6, I have not had a chance to drive it there,
Okay,
but
so
every
it's trying to
version
take the
previous
Easy
has
Pass lane
failed.
then?
Yeah, because I have
Yeah,
HOV turned on.
it'll probably be a problem with 12.3.6 because it's still the old highway
Right.
stack. Because I've noticed the
Exactly.
highway stack tends to like when the highway opens up, maybe to take another lane or do something
Right.
like that.
Well,
And it,
what I have to the only solution I have is to turn off HOV, like to turn it off in navigation to use the
oh,
HOV
okay,
lanes, and
okay,
then it won't try to do it. But otherwise, but it's not respecting the poles. I mean, literally,
yeah,
it doesn't visualize them. And then the other one is they just recently in my parking lot at work at school installed a single gate pole, and the car I put it in full self driving in the parking lot just to test it, and the pole opens really, really quickly, but the car doesn't visualize it, and I don't think it would stop if the pole didn't open up. It
yeah,
kind of like I'm kind of like it's going slow, the thing opens and it works, but I don't think if the situation was such that the pole stayed down a couple of seconds longer, don't think the car would stop.
yeah,
So
yeah. That
what is your experience with that? You said you have a
um
couple yourself, like
Okay,
including in
now the
Providence,
other thing
right?
just to point out is like, Richard has tested it from both sides. So
Right.
he's when he comes in the other way, it will stop. That's because there's actually a stop sign there that says you have to stop.
Right.
So it will
Right.
come to the stop sign, and then if the gate hasn't opened up or if it hasn't seen your fob or whatever you have to do, it'll decide to go in on its own. So again, he has to brake at that point. So there's just
Right.
something about the visualization that doesn't see it. So like I say,
Yeah.
the
I
closest
think
I would have to
let me
testing
go to
would
here.
be a drawbridge, but I think those gates will have like chains and other things that are coming down that I think
Yeah.
now they notice.
Right. So
But
the
this
big
is
thing
not
is
relying
it's
on acoustic sensors. I mean,
no, 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 no,
this is
no.
a
Yeah,
purely, so you can't say it's one of those things that it couldn't get it from those sensors, and that's
right.
clearly in the line of sight of the dash cam. We
Yeah,
don't have the dash cam footage here, but I think we can assume the dash cam is seeing that,
yeah.
and it's just for
Oh,
some
no
reason it's
question. I
literally
mean,
in a
it's
blind
up
spot.
above your head and shooting.
Yeah,
There's 3
yeah,
cameras. So you can see that the car, it's hard to see, but the car is not visualizing that. And I think if I skip forward
yeah.
to where he gets up, you can see here, this is a better view. If you watch the car in the blue noodle here,
Yep.
it comes up. Let's see, I'll play it. Never. So he stops, so you can see that, but the car never visualizes. It
Right.
never sees that pole. So I have a theory about this. Do you have a theory about this, or do you want to?
I'm just assuming it's something to do with some size criteria, that when something's below a certain size, it's like, oh, it's nothing.
Right,
But it doesn't make sense because it should see the length of it. So it's almost like, is the diameter too small? If it was a bigger
right.
diameter, would it work? I mean, if you had a
Well, and
telephone pole sticking across like that, I assume it would see that. So I don't think it's the shape of the object. I'm kind of surprised it's
right,
not picking up on the color because I mean, there's a color code on there, and and that should just
yeah,
stick out like a sore thumb. That's like, hey, you should stop for that.
right, and yeah. I mean, it's a barber pole stripe. It's like white
Yeah.
and red, and those are I think pretty consistent across the United States that the
Hmm.
single poles are all white and red.
Yep.
So yeah, it should be able to recognize that. It's my theory is that this is related to low definition radar. And one of the problems with low def radar, if we go way back to when Tesla was using low def radar, it radar has buckets of information that say like not moving or moving at a certain speed relative to me. And so one of the problems is that the old problem with like if you had a semi truck that somehow had jackknife and was across the highway, which led to a couple of deaths in
Right.
earlier Tesla models, that the radar would say, "Oh, that's just a bridge," or it would bucket it into background information that was unimportant.
Yeah.
And I
And then it
know
would
that the
see
visual
that there was
system
like room underneath it, which is why I thought it was a bridge. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't think the low def radar wasn't even good enough to really understand that.
Oh,
It
okay.
just
Or maybe the
bucketed
radar
it.
went actually underneath the truck in that sense, because that's the
Right,
problem when you're doing any sort of LiDAR.
Yeah,
your LiDAR has to do a full scan. And
exactly.
if the
Right,
scan is just like a very narrow beam, it's always possible that it'll fit through a slot and
right,
you won't get anything returned. So
right. Yeah.
yeah,
So
but this
anyway,
is
so
vision.
that's I know. So okay, so hang with me for a minute. So that was a serious problem. That was what Andre Karpathy talked about several years ago. I think at a CVPR talk, and he said we threw away radar because it was causing sensor fusion issues, where the vision camera would say there's a truck there, the radar would say nah, there's nothing there, and they would debate about it, and so there was the potential for a massive critical failure. So if you get rid of the radar, now you've got vision, but the way that digital cameras work is they scan line.
Yeah.
You know, they're CMOS. They're generally, I think these are CMOS
Oh,
chips. I
interesting.
think, yeah. So I think what they're doing is they're scanning, and you've got a lot of vertical resolution is very, very good. And if you
Hmm.
have things, if you've ever like waved a camera, a CMOS camera around, you'll see it kind
Yeah.
of does the little dancey thing, especially the older ones. But it still detects those things, right? Even if they're kind of wavy and goofy. And so my theory is that upright, and I wish that we had like a video of the gate going like this and closing and seeing if it's like, oh, I see it, I see it, I see it, I see it, I don't see it. When it lands in the scan line, which is exactly horizontal,
Okay.
that's when I think the vision, like the camera scan lines, I think it thinks it's noise. I think it's like, it's just crap in the background. It's a curb that's far
Or
away. It's whatever.
maybe it's a marking on the road or something like that.
Yeah, so it doesn't, because remember, we don't
Hmm,
have radar anymore. We are
yeah.
doing pseudo lidar, which means that it's using its vision cameras to understand the world.
Yeah.
And under most circumstances, it works really well. But I think that due to the camera goofiness, you know, the fact that it's scanline cameras, and the fact that it's really horizontal, and the fact that even looking at these videos, if you just take a quick look at this, it's well, maybe not here, but like here, you know, yeah, obviously to us humans, we're like, yeah, okay. But if you think about this, if you're looking at this and
Hmm.
maybe like, you know, squint your eyes or something, it's like, yeah, okay, it's possible that this thing might be considered a curb that was far away or something. So I think it's a lidar fail. I think it's a pseudo lidar failure. It's a thing where, because it's not actually
Okay. Yeah.
projecting
It could. Yeah. If
information
you
into
look
the
at
world.
that, you could almost think of that. It's like a barrier fencing or something around there. Like you say, it almost looks like it could be demarcations for that as opposed to something right in front
Right.
of you.
And I'm a little surprised it fails at this rate because it's
Yeah.
so close to it. But
Yeah.
under these circumstances where it's driving, it's puny, right? I
Yeah.
don't even see this. Now, this is admittedly it's 720p, so it's not that great a
Right.
resolution. But where do you actually see the gate? I'm looking, about there, right?
Yeah.
So I can start to see it there. But that, look at that. I mean, you know, that's pretty easy to mistake that for background.
Yeah. Okay. That's
Yeah,
possible with it being horizontal. And then
right,
as you start to get a little bit closer, but it should, from the perspective, be able to tell actually where it is. So, like with
right.
one frame, you can
Oh,
be tricked in thinking something is distant. But when you
right.
start seeing it build up, you should be able to tell,
Yeah,
oh, no,
but think
perspectively, that's
about
where I
this
am.
too, you don't get parallax. If this thing is
Yes.
vertical, you're gonna see it changing perspective relative to the background. This is horizontal, it doesn't change perspective, so there's the only thing it's doing is getting bigger. And if you've ever played, like, baseball or something like that, and you see a
Yeah.
baseball that doesn't look like it's moving, but it's getting bigger, that's the time to, you know, put your mitt up in front of your face because it's just about to hit you in the face.
Yeah.
You know, so I think, you know, there's a parallax issue here too, which is that every frame, it's like determining, it's like, okay, is it moving relative to the background? That means it's closer, but this isn't. You're coming straight on at this thing. All look at the road surface. It's dead
Yeah.
horizontal, right? This thing is
Mhm.
dead horizontal and it's not changing. If we play this back, right? Yeah, okay. I'm curious to see if no, it never visualizes it at all.
Didn't
Like I
visualize,
don't think it
but
ever.
then
Yeah,
again, yeah, and it okay, but FSD was disengaged, but the visualization is
yeah.
still there, so
It should still work.
we should
Yeah,
see it no matter what. Yeah,
right, right.
uh, but no,
So,
I kind of I think it's not a bad theory that it may have something to do with it being horizontal, and
absolutely, it does.
you say
Yeah,
it's a bit tricky because you're constantly trying to label all these things and then have persistence with them, and then notice that if that's the same thing I keep on seeing, and I'm noticing its volume is getting a little bit bigger, I can
right.
start to predict what the distance is.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
like,
and the other thing that we can see here, we couldn't see it in the previous one, but you also get the advantage of this box over here, which is
yeah,
going to have to be a railroad crossing, whatever. that box is there. Now, the problem, of course, is that it could be vertical at this point, but at least that training, it should be able to go like, hey, there's a box here. I should be particularly aware of whether there's something in the road that's black, that red and white.
Yeah.
To see if that happens to be there, because this is a serious problem. I mean,
Mm.
again, the easy pass lanes, I'm going 70 plus miles an hour on a highway, and it suddenly tries to jump over. Thumbs up, not thumbs up, but it tries to jump over into the HOV lane.
Yeah.
When that's incredibly dangerous. I'd go through like bang, 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 right through all those poles. That would be really, really bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And
this
well,
too, ding your car up pretty bad if you did that.
So, and that's like almost another thing that they have to try to correct on the highway is like, not just deciding when's the best time to do HOV. Like it should look in there and say, wait a minute, I can tell there's only one seatbelt fastened. There's only one person in the car. I cannot go in the HOV lanes because I know you're not allowed to unless you can read the sign. But there's some HOV lanes.
But like I have an EV, and so my EV allows me to go. I have a special license
so that might be something that's okay. So you could. Is that the case in every state? It's just
no.
It's
and it's not even a case in every.
And sometimes there's weird signage about when you can be in this lane and when not. And like I'm zipping by at 70 miles. What did that sign just say? I'm trying to figure out if I'm allowed to be in there or not.
Right.
So like usually weekends, sometimes you can go in the HOV lanes and not. But the main thing is like Texas navigation gets a bit tricky there because I was going up to the Houston airport and there's like the bypass that goes around. But the bypass, it's a toll road, and you have to have a Texas tag only. It doesn't use like SunPass or anything else. It doesn't use license plate. It's very clear. It's like you got to have it or not, or like you're breaking the law. You just don't want to go in there. I'm like, okay, I'm not taking a chance with that. And it kept on wanting to go in there, and I'm like, no, don't go in there. Don't take this toll road. Because probably I should add something that not to do the toll road because in Texas, there's like always the parallel road. So it's like you get the major highway, and then you have like another almost major highway next to it that has an occasional red light.
Right. Oh no, I call it.
Still get there without getting on the highway.
I call it the rich people highway and the poor people highway.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're rich, you pay the money. If you're poor, you
you don't. But it's like I'm not from Texas and I'm coming in there and suddenly it's trying to throw me on this thing. It's like, man, I don't want the Texas Rangers coming after me. So and these are like the tricky little things. And again, when it comes to toll booths, it can kind of go through the toll booth. The question is whether it picks the best lane. Because they'll be like the cash only lanes, like, no, don't go over there. Like go to the SunPass lane. But then, you're out of state. It's like, no, you got to go to the cash only because I don't have the easy pass for this state or whatever it is.
These are things that I think Tesla should. This is not. I'm not nearly as worried about this as it detecting horizontal things because that's a safety thing, especially like a railroad track sign or anyway. But they eventually need to have you should be able to have a menu and check off the ones that you have access to.
Yeah.
And then it will know because I have Easy Pass and I have Peach Pass. And I think Easy Pass works with SunPass down in Florida, but
Easy Pass works, I think, just about all up and down the East Coast, just about everywhere.
Except in Georgia, which is super annoying.
Oh, okay.
So I know. I don't think maybe it does work in Georgia now, but it didn't for a long time.
Yeah, I think SunPass works with Peach Pass and everything like that. I took the rich man's highway trying to get to Atlanta once. So
right. Oh,
it was only $2. Well, it wasn't that bad.
Extremely happy because 85 and 75 does not let you do it in an AFV, in an alternative fuel vehicle, but 85 does. And so when I drive to the airport, if I take the red car that has the little special license plate, I can just go through and I'm by myself and not pay a penny and not worry about the HOV lanes or anything like that. So anyway, so it's good, but yeah, so the long and short of this is something that Tesla needs to address. This is not just an annoyance issue, because it is an annoyance when you're going slow in a neighborhood, but it's also safety critical. If it blows it at a railroad crossing where the thing's down sideways, now then it should be able to determine it, because there's also those big flashing lights and stuff like that. Yeah, hopefully it would. But if it blows it with that, you could die. If it blows it in terms of on a highway where there's those poles down, you might not die, but you're going to ruin your car because it's just going to drive right through all of those poles. So, and then of course it's got to do it in order to be a full.
And you've got security gates all over the place, depending on where your destination is. A lot of times you have to pull up to that again, even, some city centers and stuff like that, getting into the parking area, there's that simple little drop down.
The parking gates. Yeah. Actually,
the parking gates,
Atlanta, the Atlanta airport. There's a gate and you have to pay for it, and so the car needs to like stop.
Hmm.
Now, I
Hmm.
always manually drive it at that point, but the car, if it was full self-driving, should stop until the
Yeah.
gate goes up. But it doesn't see it. It doesn't know that that's there. So yeah, there's many, many of these situations, and it's a little worrisome that I haven't seen any progress on this, and this is
Mm.
bad because he said it's 12.3.6, right? That was where
Yeah,
it was
yeah, yeah.
going,
It's the latest one. Yeah.
and that's on city streets. That's
Mhm.
not on
Not
highways.
on the
So it's the
highway,
newest
city
tech.
streets.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yeah, absolutely.
it should be doing a better job. And I'm very concerned that it's a fundamental hardware slash software issue that's going to be very difficult for them to overcome if they haven't made progress on it already.
Mhm.
So anyway, so if somebody from Tesla or actually somebody who makes this kind of stuff wants to come on and give us their expertise, like I said at the beginning, just my speculation on what's going on here. I'm relating it to the old school radar talk discussion because I'm thinking that it has something to do with that. It's a similar kind of situation with pseudo lidar and the fact that it's just a failure of the ability of pseudo lidar. Horizontal things are not really good for it. It's just bad at detecting that. So anyway, okay,
Mhm. Okay.
all
Yeah, I
right.
think it's a plausible theory.
Yeah, so we'll see. And then, hopefully we haven't I don't know if anybody's tried this with 12.4.2. In fact, I don't know how many people have 12.4.2. Do you have it
Not
yet?
that
You don't
many,
have it.
just some of the
Yeah.
no, no, no. And I don't think it's going to go wide. I think it's 4.3 that might end up going wide
Yeah.
because there's probably a
Okay.
few more tweaks. But AI driver, he had a pretty good set of tests that he
Right.
was happy with. The speed is a bit more under control, so it
Yeah.
tends to not use the speed limit as a suggestion, but realizing that you got to stay within a certain range. Because that's the biggest feedback I got to talking to people at the Tesla owner group
Yeah.
is like, sometimes it's a bit spicy in the speeds, and
Right.
zones that it
Well,
shouldn't
and then
be.
other times it decides it's going to go 10 under. So that's
Yeah, yeah.
annoying too. So
But
yeah.
usually when it's deciding to go 10 on because it's actually reading the mood of the traffic, it's realizing everything else is going on. Or
Yeah.
I'll see it
Mhm.
that there's like a bunch of pedestrians really close by. It gets a bit dicey because I'll see these situations where like I'm not quite sure what the pedestrians are doing, and
Right.
let's just make sure that everything is okay. So it's let's say it's doing that part right, and then once it feels that there's no longer a threat, whoops, back up the speed limit and sometimes
Yeah.
10 over.
Yeah.
So, but we have to wait to see what 12.4 really is.
Yeah. So yeah. These are all very tricky issues that I'm willing to cut Tesla some slack on the speed limit issue because I know that they're trying to work on it and you can see improvement and sometimes de-improvement. But anyway, you can see this is much more concerning to me
Hmm.
because I have seen zero improvement on it.
Hmm.
It's just like, why has this not gotten better? This should be much better
Hmm.
by now. This
Hmm.
should be a solved problem. And I'm very concerned that it's a problem that they don't know how to solve, or else they would have.
Oh,
They can't
okay.
not know
Yeah.
about
I
this.
mean,
They
the other things
cannot not know
that
about
are
this.
issue is, there's been some interesting talk about, the stop signs and having to stop for, 2 seconds. So, but what's
Yeah.
interesting is how the laws are a little bit different in different states and whether it's going to figure that out. So, I think majority of states, right turn on red, you must treat it like a stop sign. You have to come to a
Yes.
complete stop and then you can go. You cannot do a rolling stop at a red light. And
Right.
FSD will do that. And they're no, I know someone who got a ticket because it rolled it through there, and he
It
didn't want
rolled
to. Yeah,
really?
it basically, it did the right turn on red, and
Yeah.
the right turn on red is that it kind of came in there and then didn't come to a complete stop. That's what he said. He had FSD engaged, it didn't come to a complete stop. I think for me, it almost always does, but there could be
Yeah.
that case where it just decides like, oh, I'm not going to come to complete stop.
Wow, I'm surprised at that because it's so over the top about stop signs.
With
Maybe
stop
they
signs, that's a stop
yeah,
sign versus a right turn on red.
maybe okay, so remember when a shock like way back last August when he was doing the
Mhm.
ride around with Elon, said that it's like 0.5% of the population actually stops at stop signs, so they had to pull a
Right.
specific data set. Maybe they never did that for the right turn on
Right
red.
turn on
So
red.
they
So
treat so it treats that much more normally like actual humans
and I
do,
think
which
what
is
it
kind of
is that
rolling
the
it,
right
so
the right turn on red, if it sees something, a car is coming, it knows it has to stop. But if
Mhm,
it's like
mhm.
maybe the middle of the night and there's absolutely
Yeah,
no traffic coming, it's just going to go, oh, there's no need to stop and go. And then that's
yeah.
right when the officers are sitting there catch people.
Yep,
And
exactly.
and the thing is that when he got the ticket, he didn't want to say that the car was driving because he's afraid to get himself in even more trouble. So
I would have said it. I would have been like, "Hey, the car was driving. It's not my fault."
yeah,
The guy would have said
yeah,
like,
but
"Well,
technically it is. So I mean,
you know, it's obviously your fault." I
he's
mean,
hoping that
that's
when he
tough.
brings it in front of the judge, he'll say that he had it on engaged, and
Right.
We'll see.
Tell him he's a beta tester. I don't know. It depends on the judge. The judge might be like, I'm going to give you double punishment for that because you
Yeah,
used the
for that one.
carbon
Yeah.
dates. So we will see about that. All right. Thank you so much, Scott. That was, hey, look, we were efficient. We kept this down to just over 20 minutes. So this would be great.
Super. Great.
People will be very happy about that.
Mhm.
We discussed this thing. Definitely let us know in the comments what you think about that. We'll read it and see if people have had, also if you've had good experiences, like where it's better now, that would be really useful to know as well. I have not, but it would be good to know if there were those or if you've had other things similar to that. So anyway,
Mhm.
we will see you up in San Luis Obispo in a couple of weeks. And in the meantime, everybody have a great day.
Right. Looking forward to it. Bye.
Yep. Bye-bye.